William W. R. Ozier, Wes, is a lead AP who spent nearly 10 years working in the Arcosanti Project, the Acosa Institute, and the Lost Valley Educational Center. During that time, Wes was a contributing writer to the magazines Earth Odyssey and The Noise. This book is a compilation of his top 30 published articles on varying topics in green design, from arcology to xeriscaping. Easy to read and packed with information, this book gives both a technical and personal look into the developing sustainable world around us. This book is dedicated to all the pioneers who have and still are working hard to lay the foundations for a sustainable future. Williams Ecopedia Volume 1, Topics in Sustainability from Arcology to Xeriscaping. Copyright June 2010. Table of Contents, Colony Collapse Disorder, page 32. Author's note, this article was written almost 10 years ago, and the information in it is currently out of date in regards to colony collapse disorder. This article is being read for archival purposes. Colony collapse disorder. The ecology of the Earth is a complex web of living things working together for each other's benefits that not only keep each other alive, but enable each other to thrive. This article is dedicated to one of the keystone species of that complex web, the humble honeybee. Many are unaware of the importance of bees to the ecology and are unaware of the importance of the beekeeping industry in America and around the world. Honeybees are not native to the Americas, and Native American plants do not require bees for pollination. However, honeybees do now support pollination for about 16% of the wild fauna of America. They are responsible for pollination of approximately 1/3 of the United States agriculture crops, such as almonds, peaches, soybeans, apples, pears, cherries, raspberries, blackberries, cranberries, and strawberries. There are other insects that function as pollinators, but they do not function as well as bees on an industrial level. Beehives can be moved from crop to crop, and the bees operate en masse in an organized fashion. This makes them ideal for large-scale mass agricultural production. Beekeepers have their hives within specially constructed boxes. The beekeepers load the boxes onto trucks and drive them out to large agricultural fields where they unload the boxes and let the bees out. The bees do what bees do. They fly around and collect nectar from the local fauna to be brought back to the hive to make honey to feed the colony. In this process, the bees spread the pollen of the plants, allowing the plants to reproduce. The bees eventually return to the hive where the box is closed, and the beekeeper moves on to the next client, which may be several states away. In California, beekeepers are even brought in from as far away as Australia to support the $1.5 billion almond crop. In 2000, the total U.S. crop value that was wholly dependent on honeybee pollination was more than $15 billion. Mass colony die-offs are nothing new to the beekeeping industry. It is something that happens from time to time, the first recorded mass colony death being reported as early as 1896. There was a wave of colony extinctions recognized in the winter of 2004 brought on by the varroa mites, commonly called the vampire mite. This parasite, native to Asia, where it is kept in check by natural predators and disease, was first introduced into Florida in the mid-1980s. Varroa mites were reported in Kentucky in 1991, and they rapidly spread across the country from there. Since their introduction, colony losses of 15 to 20% each year have become the norm across America. Pesticides have caused massive damage to the American bee population, such as the introduction of the pesticide Gaucho by the Bayer Corporation. From 1971 to 2006, approximately half of the U.S. honeybee colonies have vanished due to many environmental factors such as pollution, pesticides, and urban sprawl. Recently, beekeepers have noticed a new wave of mass colonial extinction, but do not mistake this new phenomenon as part of business as usual. In the last year alone, beekeepers on the east coast of the United States suddenly lost more than 70% of their stock, while the west coast has seen a decline of over 60%. This mysterious colony deaths are also being reported in Germany, Switzerland, Spain, Portugal, Italy, and Greece, suggesting that this is a sudden worldwide phenomenon, though America is the hardest hit. This new phenomenon has been dubbed colony collapse disorder, or CCD for short. Colony collapse disorder does not show the usual signs of past colony death disasters. For one, in the past, there would usually be dead bees in the area around the colony. In the current rash of CCD, there are no dead bodies. The bees are simply gone, suggesting they willfully and suddenly abandoned the colony en masse, or some factor interfered with their navigational abilities, and the multitude of the colony suddenly became lost amid the fields and could not find their way back to the hive. Second, the few bees that are left in the abandoned colonies are displaying abnormally high amounts of infections, diseases, and disorders, suggesting their immune systems are collapsing. Third, it is quite common that when a hive is abandoned, scavenger species such as waxworm moths or hive beetles invade the hive. With CCD, the hives are left completely abandoned, not even ravaged by scavengers, suggesting that there is some factor inherent in the location of the hive that other species recognize as lethal. Fourth is a lack of any apparent causal factors such as parasites or chemical residues. Fifth is the rapidity and the scale of the disappearances and the fact that it is spread over so vast a geographic dispersal. Agricultural and environmental scientists are struggling to find the cause of this phenomenon, but CCD is happening so fast and is so out of the norm that doing so is extremely difficult. Even so, there are now two prevailing theories, both of which have strong evidence to support them. One theory suggests that genetically modified crops, GMOs, may be the cause. GMOs are designed to be insect resistant by being toxic to pests. The toxicity of many GMOs is designed to be systemic, meaning once a pest has come into contact with the GMO, the pest carries away bacteria or infection, creating a pandemic among its population. The pollen of GMOs eaten by the bees may be toxic to them, leading to a combination of immune deficiency disorders that result in plague that results in the abandonment and collapse of the colony, or the GMOs may be killing microorganisms essential to the survival of the bees. However, the two most prolific GMO crops are corn and cotton, neither of which require pollination by bees. In 2005, 35% of all U.S. corn planted was genetically modified and 52% of all cotton. According to the American Beekeeping Federation, beekeepers that have been most affected so far have been close to corn, cotton, soybeans, canola, sunflowers, apples, vine crops, and pumpkins. Though the bees do not pollinate these crops, it is inevitable that if the bees are within about 10 miles, they will come into contact with the plants. It has been known in the past that sometimes bees will abandon hives infected with epidemics, leaving behind any infected bees or larvae. In the last few years, GMOs have become far more prolific in American agriculture and are being exported at greater rates to Europe and other countries across the world. While non-conclusive, the effect of GMOs does match the symptoms and the geographic spread of CCD. A second theory suggests the cause may be from cell phone towers. Cell phone towers operate by using radiation in radio frequencies which are within the same band of the EM spectrum as those used in the common household microwave ovens. The main danger from these frequencies is thermal damage, i.e., the radiation can heat and literally cook organic material from the inside out. A second level of danger from these frequencies are more subtle effects such as slowly accrued cancer, damage to neurological tissue, damage to developing fetal tissue, or immune system collapse. The amount of microwave radiation in a cell tower can output is regulated by the federal government to be at levels non-lethal to humans in the short or long terms, though the technology has not existed long enough for true long-term tests to have been conducted. However, though the radiation levels may be safe to humans, they might not be safe for insects or microorganisms, and it may be affecting bees in ways we do not know. Some suggest that the radiation from the cell phone towers may interfere with the bees' ability to navigate. A second theory is that the radiation of the tower is causing both neurological damage and immune deficiencies among bee populations. It is still unclear what effect cell phone tower radiation could have on bee populations, but research by Dr. Jochen Kuhn at Germany's Landau University has shown that bees do abandon hives when RF towers with radiation levels 1/10 those used by commercial cell phone towers are present. In 2002, industry officials stated that there were more than 128,000 cell phone towers across America. By 2007, cell phone towers have become so prolific, it is almost impossible to find an accurate number. You can go to www.cellreception.com to look up a map of listed cell phone towers in your local area. Some may be hard to spot in your neighborhood as the industry is now disguising them as trees. The greatest concentration of cell phone towers in the world are on the east and west coasts of America, where CCD has been most evident. Cell phones are gaining popularity around the world, and more towers are going up in Europe every day. Likewise, CCD is now spreading across Europe. Again, not conclusive, but there's a matchup of symptoms and geographic spread. If cell phone towers are the cause of CCD, the American populace has to ask itself a question. Do you want to lose 1/3 of your food supply or maintain your cell phone service? Even if the general populace wanted to eliminate cell phone towers in their area, it would be legally very difficult. Section 704 of the Telecommunications Act of 1996 says that local communities cannot ban cell phone towers outright or set zoning regulations based on the environmental effects of radio frequency emissions. So even if it is proven that the towers are the cause, they still cannot be legally banned due to this statute. There is a possible alternative system called the distributive antenna system, which has no emissions but can still allow cell phone access within a localized area, but it is more costly to install and has a smaller range, so the cell phone companies do not use this system. The exact effect of bees on both cultivated and wild agriculture is difficult to exactly determine. Some estimate that 1/3 of all food an average American consumes is due to bee pollination, and indirectly, it is more like 84% of all human food production relies on bee pollination. The American agriculture industry has an annual $15 billion dependence on the work of bees, and bees pollinate over 16% of the flowering plant species that grow wild. Realistically, it may already be too late. We could be looking at near extinction of the honeybees within 5 years. When you are knowledgeable of the actual implications and effects of this, you realize that this is a true ecological catastrophe that is happening right now as we speak. The extinction of honeybees could lead to a direct loss of 16% of our natural fauna, which could lead to a further collapse of plant and animal species, and so on, which would inevitably give rise to a new ecological order, one that may be counter to human interests and health. This is not rampant speculation. This is how ecologies work. The loss of the honeybee could cause the collapse of a $15 billion industry in America alone. As that economy collapses, those economies which depend on it may quickly collapse as well. While we're trying to find the cause, the syndrome spreads. There is not enough money being put into research on this issue, and it is difficult for science and politics to move at the necessary speed to learn definitive answers and come up with strategic solutions. Thus far, the two most probable causes, GMOs and cell phones, are two mega-billion-dollar industries which stand to lose everything if we were to suddenly shut them down. As awareness of CCD spreads, so does their money to alleviate any fingers of blame pointed at their products. CCD is a real phenomenon, which will have long-lasting and catastrophic effects on the earth and on us. We need to identify its causes and abate its effects immediately. I wager that you will be hearing much more about this issue in the next year as its effects become apparent, and as you munch on your GMO corn chips, you can use your cell phone to tell your friends that you heard about this issue and ignored it here first in the noise. If the bee disappears from the surface of the earth, man would have no more than 4 years to live. A quote inaccurately attributed to Albert Einstein. Thank you.